We're here again. We're after taking care of patients. That happens when you're in practice, So what we left off last week, we left off on auto accidents and injury treatment. Today we just were looking at a patient that Dr. Leonard and I were going over an MRI. And we both studied MRI, and we're becoming credentialed in that through the University of Buffalo School of Medicine, part of the, I guess it's a New York University system. Anyways, been studied with a neuroradiologist, and this is one thing we learned. When we order MRIs now, we make sure we specifically order them so that they're very thin slices. We didn't know that at all.
To you, that may not mean much, but we now know that we can be more thorough and get a better view and a better idea what's going on with you. And I think that's what you want to know is we can just do a better job diagnosing you. And we always are challenged to do a better job, and this definitely will make a difference.
Yeah, so actually got on the phone with a radiologist, which was kind of cool today because a patient had brought in his wife's MRI. And wow, it's kind of sad, but I've mentioned to the radiologist is there actually what we call cord compression, where our spinal cord is kind of being choked. And that's big time. I mean, that is not something we're going to touch at all. We're going to go ahead and recommend that person, have a neurosurgical consult at least, and then somehow says, okay, yeah, they can have certain chiropractic procedures. Because it's amazing how many people have come in recently that have a fear of chiropractic, but yet once they start going through our protocols, they're so happy.
Yeah, they're afraid and fearful that we're going to do some of the manipulations that chiros do, and that there is not a lot of risk, but enough where people have that fear. But we just tell them, we're not going to do that with you. We treat each one of you individually, and we've learned over the years, lighter's better.
Or you make sure that the person is really happy with the care that they get. And we get their approval, because some people are young and they can withstand, different adjustments than people that are older, People, as we get older, we can handle maybe the more manual or physical type of adjustments.
The person's preference.
Right.
And we're going to
whatever
design
works,
it to what's best for you and what you feel best with.
Whatever the key is. Whatever works is really the most important thing. So when we talked last week, we talked about, the auto accidents. We talked about, of course, the importance of treatment.
And proper coverage, I think, is what you wanted to cover, because most of us, including myself, I was not covered in the uninsured or underinsured area enough where after discussing it with an attorney, he brought light to it that I should up that part of my policy, because so many people have a minimum which has been out since, what do we say, about the 50s?
About 50s or 60s in California.
It's a very minimal policy that a lot of people have. That's all they're required to have. So if the accident is such, or there's a few people in the car, you want to make sure that you have this uninsured or underinsured as well to make sure you're well covered.
So uninsured, what Dr. Leonard's talking about, uninsured includes underinsured. That means that the faulty party does not have adequate insurance. That means that you would go after your own policy, for whatever injuries, whatever permanency might occur to you as a result of the accident. So it goes uninsured, and under that is underinsured. So, for example, just like Dr. Leonard was speaking, that he upped his insurance after talking to an attorney, I made sure that I went through my insurance. I increased everything. The other component that's real important, about liability. Liability, like Dr. Leonard was talking about, 1530. That's been around since the 50s or 60s or 70s. I mean, come on, Healthcare has gone up. Everything's, much greater expense. Can you imagine if the fire department has to come to the scene of the accident, and if the EMTs have to come to the scene of the accident? That alone is
the ambulance ride. That's
what
the
is
big
that?
thing.
What is that?
That really ranges.
$2,500?
Yeah, we've seen it as high as that.
$2,500. If the EMTs work on you at all, that's another $1,000.
How about if at the hospital and their procedures and for that
urgent
one day?
Care.
Yeah.
So for me, and I think you as well, you have what, 25? You have
I went to 50 to
not liability. Liability is different, but
yeah.
liability is what you're responsible for should you be liable and cause the accident. Typically, the baseline is 1530. What 15 means is 15. Like, let's say I'm in an accident, I'm hit, the other party's got 1530. I'm the only person in the car. My injuries are significant. I can only get or recoup $15,000 from the faulty party. Now, if there's 4 people in my car, and then remember, it's a 1530 policy, the 15 is single individual, 30 is aggregate. So that aggregate, if I got 4 people in my car, that's $7,500 a person as far as what could be recouped for medical, for injuries, for pain and suffering, and for anything else that might incur. That's crazy. So I know my policy, I have $250, $500, I think I have, as far as liability. I've got to make sure you're covered. And then as far as the uninsured, I have $250, I believe, $250,000. And then we talk about MedPay. A lot of people don't know about that. MedPay means medical payments. In other states, it's called PIP, but in California, it's medical payments. Medical payments means that I have $25,000. Now, you might not have anything in your MedPay because agents don't say, hey, you should get this. They don't tell you should get it. A lot of times, and here's what I've heard before from some agents, they say, well, you don't need MedPay because you got health insurance. Well, health insurance, as we know, has so many limitations. You might have a deductible, you might have a co-payment, you might be restricted to what providers you can use. If you're in an HMO, it might take weeks or months to get anything accomplished. With MedPay, in your insurance, you are allowed to use it to see whoever you'd like as a provider of health care. That's a good thing. I personally have $25,000. I think you have $25,000 as well.
Yeah, because there was a patient several years ago that she had 2 within a year, and
2 car accidents.
Yeah,
wow.
And so the one accident was quite bad. It was on the 405, and she hit the center divider. But she said I called State Farm, and that was her agent, and it was like just dollars per month. It was so inexpensive to raise it from $5,000 to $25,000.
It was like $3 or $5.
I did that too. It's just so inexpensive to have $25,000. I think everybody should look at it, but at least the 5. I mean, 5 is what we see.
It's minimal.
Yeah,
it is so minimal.
At least have that though, if you're going to have anything at all. And the key thing on that, you want to have it as an excess. Some of the insurance companies only allow the what insurances are we talking about?
Primary insurance.
Yeah, well, you have to use your primary insurance first before you can use the MedPay. Right. So we like the MedPay to be your primary. I don't know if there's a name for that.
No, it's called MedPay, but you got to specifically ask them, is it excess or is it regular MedPay where I can use it and I don't have to go through my insurance company? So let's use another example. Let's say that you have health insurance that might cover chiropractic. Well, you might still have a deductible. You still have co-pays. Let's say you have 12 visits a year. You got that as part of your coverage. Well, maybe you don't want to use those 12 visits because, the accident was someone else and someone else should be responsible. So why not go ahead and have a MedPay that you don't have to use your insurance like you do in excess. Excess, you have to use your health insurance before you can use your MedPay. It acts like a secondary. I don't know if you understand that. Medicare, many times people, if they have Medicare, they have a primary and then they have a secondary. That's what it acts as. So your excess acts as a primary, then the MedPay acts as a secondary. Well, they love that because they're saving money, but they don't always.
The insurance company, that is, he's talking about saving the money. So, it's not to your advantage at all. Mm-hmm. So, to have just regular MedPay, definitely a good choice.
Well, there's some companies that you cannot have
regular
MedPay.
Yes, that's another story.
People go to Costco, get insurance, okay, and they get insurance through Ameriprise. Ameriprise is only excess. They get Mercury. Mercury is only excess. And I think some Allstate plans are only excess as well. So you really need to talk to your agent. That's what I would recommend. You talk to your agent and verify that it is not excess. That's a key word there. It is not excess, but is regular med pay so that you can use it. It is all about protection for ourselves, you know. God forbid you get in a car accident. I mean,
and it's your fault.
And it's
that's the issue, because of course if it's not your fault, we're going to be able to help you out.
Yeah,
well, we can help you out because we have a good network of different legal teams and stuff that we can advise you to, you know, to help you out with a case. But hey, sometimes, you know what, an accident is an accident where you could hit somebody else, or it'd be your fault, or it'd be questionable. That's when it's nice to have the med pay.
Yeah, it's always nice to have it. I think no matter what, I wouldn't be without it. That's for sure. Because it's really incredible how a lot of people don't think they're even injured. You know, because our body initial response after an accident is adrenaline. So the adrenaline is there. We're all hyped up, and we're not really feeling things. And you know, we've had patients in recently that both, you know, with these airbags going off, you know, whether it was the airbag or whether I'm hitting something, they're having chest injuries and they're having mild traumatic brain injury, which is a concussion, almost like a quarterback, like Tom Brady, you know.
Well, what we understand now, and we're getting better at diagnosing it, but most of these whiplashes where the head is forced to be thrown forward and back, there is some trauma to the brain, and that has to be checked out, because that takes it from a no big deal to a much bigger deal. So we want to do a real good job with you and have you do certain tests to find out if indeed that you had a concussion.
And that's a key, because you know, you go to the urgent care, which we do advise if you're in a, you know, significant enough accident, go to urgent care, get checked out, let them do their evaluation. And many times they're going to do a brain MRI or maybe a CAT scan depending on the injuries. And those, you know, those are necessary. It's good to rule that out. Afterwards, get in here immediately, and then we can do the brain function evaluation in addition to our, you know, the chiropractic, the orthopedic, and the neurological tests. So just from the standpoint of injuries, it's sad that the injuries, one car accident is like playing a year of professional football. You know, so it's significant. You know, we never downplay it, because being in practice as long as we have now, we see people that have been in car accidents 20, 30 years ago, and the spine undergoes a more rapid, you know, degenerative disease and disc problems, and of course more loss of quality, more loss of function, and it really doesn't have to be that way. So next week, I think what we're going to do is we're going to talk about that research study. And it was very cool. This research study, we're going to have to read this a bit, because this research study was done comparing, and it was done through Mayo Clinic and Cleveland Clinic, and we might have mentioned that last week or brought it up a little bit. But anyways, it is about chiropractic and how chiropractic should be number one when it comes to the injuries, spinal injuries. It's got to be number one.
And just regular chiropractors, I think, see over half of all auto accidents anyway.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it just further verifies the need to get chiropractic checked, at least checked to see if we find that if you had an injury or not. Because some people think, I didn't have one, or I'm not sure if I had one. Let us help you determine, you know, if indeed you have one. You'll know after an exam.
Well, we push and prod, of course, because we have to act like detectives, you know. So we're kind of finding out what's going on in the body, because believe it or not, your body, you're the last person to feel what's going on, you know. You don't know. It's many.
Well, nobody wants to be hurt. You know, I remember my first accident. I didn't want to be hurt. I mean, geez, I'm thinking I'm okay. That wasn't that bad. But then a few years later, I did feel the pain from it. I can't tell you how many patients, when you do a really thorough history, say, well, a few years ago, you know, I had this mind, and it's like, you know, it all clicks and makes sense to them that indeed did cause injury to their spine. Right. So please share this with your friends, because a lot of people don't know this, you know, information, and and
then, you know, the neat thing is that we always want to provide the best quality care. Anything that we do here, like the PMF, the pulse electromagnetic frequency, the non-surgical spinal decompression, you know, a lot of the adjustments, the inversion, decompression, the back extension exercise, everything that we do.
The adjustment, you know, sometimes people say they go to a doctor for an injury, and he's a chiropractor, and he doesn't adjust them, and it's not the hands-on, and that's, you know, all those other things that we do are critical and important, but boy, the adjustment is a real major part of getting better.
It's a key component. We just got to do everything in our powers to help you have a great recovery. So if you haven't been in a while, You know, the whole extensive nature of our type of care is to get you good quality chiropractic care, great adjustments, get you doing the rehab, get you doing from a nutritional standpoint. So anyone that's a patient of ours is really getting the best of all worlds as far as the holistic approach so that they can be taken care of nutritionally, you know, chiropractically, everything.
Yeah. Be treated in every aspect
Right.
and not just
truly
you
a
know,
holistic approach.
Yeah.
Truly holistic. So I don't know how long we've been on, but time goes by fast when we're having fun,
Yep.
right?
Yes.
Okay, so we'll see you next week. Again, we're trying to do these, you know, at 6 p.m. But, you know, sometimes we have emergencies. You know, we got to see patients, keep the doors open.
But thank you for listening and watching. We appreciate, you viewing in and taking your time.
Bye.
Bye.